Alright, here's the engine bay of my Toyota Coaster. To do a compression test on this, we're going to have to take the intake manifold crossover tube off. So that's only a matter of 3 or 4 bolts here, another 3 here, and don't forget the one that's hidden right underneath that's straight up and securing the manifold to the cover. Once you get that out, then you've got access to all the glow plugs. Then you have to undo all these little nuts on top and take that buzz bar off, disconnect the electrical terminal at the back, and once you get that buzz bar off, then you'll be able to remove the glow plugs. 12mm sockets preferable. You can do it with a ring spanner, a little bit more awkward, but yeah, once you get all those glow plugs out, you're ready for a compression test. And we'll show you the gauge and what we do next. Doing a compression test is really easy on a diesel. Might be a little bit awkward to get the glow plugs or injectors out to do it, but it's going to save you a lot of money if you just fork out initially 55-60 bucks for a kit like this. You do the job yourself, save yourself at least 100 bucks, because the mechanic will charge you anything like 150 bucks to do it for you. Now you've got to ask yourself the question, why are you doing this in the first place? Do you think there's a problem with compression because your diesel doesn't go, or it's missing, or something like that? There is such a thing as a static compression test. You can just crank the key over. If it's not starting, you will hear the beat of the starter motor and it'll go okay, best I can do for you. And if there's a low compression, you'll hear the motor going okay. You probably don't even have to do a compression test, because you know straight away you've got a compression problem, okay, because you haven't got an even beat of the starter motor. But you still have to find why that compression is low, so you're going to do a compression test, and we'll talk later on after I've finished doing one cylinder for you. We'll talk about the results and what you can do about depending on the compression variations. Now this kit, like I said, it's pretty comprehensive. You get a whole stack of these glow plug adapters, different threads, different lengths, so match it to your glow plug as best you can according to the seat on the end. Now there'll be a taper on your glow plug, so you measure from there and up to see if what'll fit your particular engine. In this 1HZ, it's this little fellow, got the thread all the way down. It's the same pitch as the glow plug, and that's important because there's a couple of different thread sizes in here for your glow plugs. Now you can also go through the injector hole, which I wouldn't advise, because then you've got to break your fuel lines, pull the injectors out. And glow plugs much easier. So in my case here, I'm obviously going to go through the glow plugs. So yeah, that's the adapter I'm going to use, and the gauge, and you get a whole stack of adapters here also to go through the injector hole if you have to go that way, depending on what car you're doing. But in a 1HZ, glow plug is the easiest way. Alright, so next thing is I'll take the crossover tube out, I'll take the glow plugs out, and we'll carry on from there, and we'll do one compression for you, and then we'll get into the more technical side of it and discuss compression variation and diagnosis from there. Alright, now that we've taken the intake crossover tube off and we've got all the glow plugs out, we'll screw this little fitting into a glow plug hole, connect the gauge up to it, and we'll crank it over. Now this engine, obviously it stopped, so it's a cold engine. You're supposed to do a compression test when they're hot to get the best numbers, but I'll take that into account. The compression pressure will be lower than what it should be, but yeah, just for the purposes of this exercise, that's I can't warm it up obviously. So let's stick this in a hole, do a compression, and I'll do all 6 of them, but I'm not going to film all 6 of them. And just to give you an idea of how this is done on a diesel. Now these need to be up against the seat when they're screwed in, otherwise they'll just leak past the thread. So yeah, you just do the mop firm. That'll seal it from the combustion chamber. You have to leave your injectors in. If you take them out, you'll have no compression at all. So yeah, so let's get that in there. It's going to be a simple matter of just screwing it straight in and then nipping it up with a spanner. 12mm would be the spanner I'm going to use in this case. Righto. Okay, let's have a look and see what we've got here. Got the compression gauge and it's in neutral. Fuel solenoid is disconnected, so we're not pumping fuel into the cylinder. And that will do, and that's it. Simple as that. 5 or 6 strokes up on the gauge, and what have I got? 450 psi. It's supposed to be 526, but it's past its minimum as well, so 384 was minimum compression. So nothing wrong with my compression, and not on this cylinder anyway. When I do all the other 5 cylinders, we'll see how they all come up. Alright, so let's talk about results, variation. You've done your audible cranking test and you suspected you had a low cylinder, you did your compressions, and yeah, you're down 60, 70, 80 psi in one cylinder. The diagnosis for that is quite simple. Throw some oil, 4 or 5 squirts of oil down the glow plug hole and do the compression again on that cylinder. If the compression comes up, you've got ring troubles. Simple as that. End of story. You'll be pulling your engine down. Yeah, okay. What happens is the oil seals the rings better and you'll get a rise in compression. So that's an easy one. Now what if the compression doesn't come up and you've still got the low compression? Well, it could be a head gasket, or it could be a valve, burnt out valve, or a valve staying open because your tappets are too tight, something like that. But these sorts of things, you would have noticed problems with your engine well before you had to do a compression test. So yeah, if you've just let your car go and just kept missing and missing and missing, and then you got to the stage where it's just a total burnout on one cylinder and not firing at all, you've left it a little late. You need to get on top of these things pretty early. So yeah, that'll be a valve trouble, more than likely. You can probably tell whether it's an inlet or whether it's an exhaust if you put your ear up to the manifold while you're doing compression tests, because you'll hear a hissing back up the intake manifold, because especially you've got that crossover bit taken off. So you'll be able to hear any back pressure coming up the intake manifold. And if you've got someone listening down at the exhaust, they'll be able to hear a hissing coming out of there as well. Every time it comes up and boom, hits the compression stroke, you'll hear hissing out the exhaust as well. Now if it's a head gasket, likely it's between 2 cylinders. So if you've got 2 low compressions and the cylinders are side by side, you've probably got a blown head gasket. Yeah. You may even have 3 cylinders, maybe 4. They'll all be low, and adding oil will make no difference. So you probably, I'd go on almost 99.9% that you got a head gasket failure. Now it's possible you could have a head gasket failure externally, not between cylinders, but external, straight out the side of the engine block. You may hear it hissing out of there as well. If you got good ears, not like me, I have to have hearing aids, so I probably wouldn't hear that. That would be another telltale sign. But at the end of the day, you got compression variation, you're going to be pulling something apart to rectify it, yeah? It's not a good thing. It's as easy as that. Compression test in a diesel isn't too hard. The hardest part is just like a petrol engine, you pull your spark plugs out and do a compression test, but in a diesel you take out your glow plugs. And if you can't take your glow plugs out and you have to go through the injectors, yeah, I feel sorry for you, because you're going to be breaking the fuel line and doing a lot of extra work, but that's the way it goes if you want to know what's going on. That'll be the only way to do it, a manual compression test to differentiate what the problem could be, okay? There could be a myriad of other problems with your car, but if the compression's got a lot of variation, then you're in the spot of bother and it's going to cost you a few bucks to fix it. Alright, hope that covered it, and I hope you learned something. I'll see you in another video.